Okay, here we go. The Common Council meeting to be held in the Greenfield Common Council Chambers, City Hall Room 100 is called to order on Wednesday, February 19th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Labatsky is excused. Alderperson Bailey.
Present.
Alderperson Akers. Alderperson Zarian. Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Item 2 is opening prayer. All right, item B, sorry.
Thankful for this day. This evening, we gather in your presence, Heavenly Father, and ask for your blessings on all of us. We ask for your guidance on this common council that has gathered here this evening to do the work that they were chosen to do to best serve this community. May their efforts be blessed with insight and guided by understanding. Yesterday, we exercised our freedom to vote. May all who were chosen in this primary be true to serve with integrity and honesty if elected. We pray for our police, our firefighters, and our nation's military. And lastly, dear Lord, keep our citizens and especially our children safe in light of the incident today on 64th and Cold Spring. As this meeting comes to a close, deliver us to our homes safely as we await your new day tomorrow. Amen.
Amen. Item C is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving along, item D, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the February 4th, 2020 Common Council minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
By Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under Mayor's report this evening, just a couple of quick things. Over the weekend, we had our first ever pond hockey invitational tournament at Conkle Park, where there were, I believe, 12 teams. We had entrants from as far away as Illinois that came. Every one of the participants expressed incredible enthusiasm and appreciation for the tournament. We can see that growing and improving. Additionally, this evening, concurrently, we scheduled a meeting with regard to the turf, working in concert with the 27th Street Business Improvement District and Pulaski Carmen High School. There is an informational meeting going on there as we speak right now. The Grind Line, which is a national skateboard builder, organization, contractor, the premier folks, with many of them that have skated the turf, are leading that effort tonight on our behalf. So should be pretty cool, I think. All right, aldermanic reports. Are there any? You have to give the pollinator report too. You know that, right?
We will. We're working on that, sir.
Okay. Announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? I want to thank everybody for voting yesterday. The turnout was actually pretty good. It was about 20%, I think, citywide, right?
Almost 25.
Almost 25%, which is unusual. Turnout for an April election is usually, I don't know, can be as low as you said, 4%, 4 5%. Sometimes it's 13, and I usually remember about 16%. So that was good. Democracy thrives when people vote, right? Citizen commentary, there's no one here. Everyone looks like they're here for an item, I think. Public hearings, the first one is item I-1A and B. This relates to an amending the official Greenfield zoning map by rezoning the properties located at 3200 South 103rd Street from C2 Community Commercial District to C4 Regional Highway Business. This would include adopting an ordinance to amend the official zoning map by rezoning the property from C2 to C4. It would also include or as part of the public hearing, is the site landscape and architectural plans for that rehabilitation hospital. Andrew?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So WB Development Partners is proposing to build a $15 million three-story rehabilitation hospital that'll be just about 48,000 square feet. And this is in the northwest part of the city along Oklahoma and 103rd. It's currently a vacant parcel. It had formerly been the Knights of Columbus building there. Schlossman Honda had been parking their extra inventory on the site for the past few years. Those vehicles are starting to be moved off of there. So it's a vacant parcel, currently zoned C2. The rehabilitation hospital use is a permitted use in the C4 zoning district. So the parcel is proposed to be rezoned to C4. The hospital will take up the 4-acre parcel that's outlined in the pink color here. It currently is one tax key that's 5 acres. The current owner is going to retain this 1-acre parcel right here, and that'll likely be redeveloped for commercial use at some point in the future. So the hospital will go on the 4-acre parcel right here. It is zone C2. It abuts the freeway. There aren't any residential uses or users. Children's Hospital of Wisconsin to the west of there. So it should fit in pretty well in the business corridor along South 103rd near Oklahoma. The services that the hospital will include physical and occupational therapy, rehabilitation, nursing, speech-language pathology, and they anticipate 90% of their patients will be from acute care settings, so discharged from a hospital, but still needing additional care, so not quite ready to go home. They anticipate that the average patient will stay in the range of 12 to 14 days and then be discharged back to their home. An example of this would be the Rehabilitation Hospital of Wisconsin in Waukesha. Although that hospital doesn't have inpatient, it doesn't have beds, and this hospital will have 40 inpatient beds. They anticipate having a staff of around 60 people during the day and 40 staff members at night. You can see the breakdown here of the different staffing levels. They'll have approximately 30 nursing and therapy staff from food services and marketing, admission staff, housekeeping, administration. This is the site plan for the proposed hospital. So the freeway is located here to the east. The main hospital will be right here. They'll have 2 entrances off of South 103rd Street. There's an abundance of landscaping along the road along South 103rd, as well as within the perimeter of the parcel. They're proposing having approximately 108 parking spaces. They'll have a loading area and refuse enclosure here. There's actually a masonry wall that'll go around the side and around the eastern portion of the property to screen it from, if you were along the freeway, for instance, you wouldn't be able to see the loading dock or the refuse back in there. They do have a sidewalk that's proposed to go around the entire perimeter of the building, a rehabilitation garden located on the north part of the hospital. And the site will be illuminated with new LED lights. So this is looking at the northeast corner of the building. So this would be if you were on the north part of the freeway, heading south on the freeway. This is the view that you would see. It's got nice clear full story windows on this elevation. The rehabilitation garden area would be right over here. There's the walkway along the entire perimeter, the eastern portion of the building. It is primarily glass and masonry material. It's a nice looking building. This is the southeast corner view, so if you were heading north along the freeway and you looked to your left, this is the view that you would see. The loading dock area and refuse enclosure would be behind this wall, so you wouldn't really be able to see it from the freeway. And this is the northwest corner view, so the entrance to the hospital is located right here. Again, here's the 2-story glass section of the building. In the two-dimensional elevations, you can see again, there's the opening here that would go back to the refuse and loading dock, the entryway here, the glass partition, the glass two-story section here. And again, this would be the eastern elevation. So you can see it's primarily brick with the glass section here. And again, the north and south elevations of the building. The Plan Commission recommended approval of the rezoning, and we have not received any letters of objection to date.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone here other than, is the applicant? I see applicants over there. Anyone other than the applicants here to speak for or against or informational purposes concerning this item? Is there anyone here to speak for, against, or informational purposes, or informational for this item? If you're...
Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions?
No, I've been in front of me for a while.
When do you plan to open?
If you could tell us what your name is and what your address is and
Yep.
who you are.
Alex Bennett, 441 West Airport Freeway, Irving, Texas. We anticipate that upon approval, it'll take 12 to 14 months to construct the building. So we're probably looking at a mid-21 opening. Summer of 21.
Okay.
So I've noticed that there are a lot of medical facilities popping up here and there, and there must be a need for them. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've conducted independent market analysis to ensure that there's a sufficient bed need in the market.
We're getting old and breaking.
Excuse me.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion by Alderperson Kastner to close, second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map from C2 to C4, as noted in your agenda for the tax key number is listed
I'll make the motion
Motion
to
by-
adopt the ordinance to amend.
by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'd also entertain a motion to approve the site landscaping and architectural plans for that building under item
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner,
Second.
second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 2 is a public hearing for a special use permit for Bargain Thrift Mart, a proposed resale shop to be located at 4450 South 108th Street. This would include adopting a resolution for the resale shop, as long as approving a site plan review. Andrew?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So the applicant is proposing a resale shop in the C4 zoning district, which permits the used merchandise stores as a special use. They're proposing to lease approximately 10,000 square feet in the northern part of the building here. Wild Birds Unlimited would be in the tenant space just next to that. And Kowicki Park is behind here, just for reference. The applicant's business was founded in 2003 and expanded to a warehouse in West Allis in 2013. This would be their first brick and mortar retail store. Their proposed hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, and they anticipate having in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 employees. The parking required for the thrift store use would be 50 spaces. The total off-street parking required for the code for the entire building is 114 spaces, and the site currently has 74 off-street parking spaces, so a parking waiver would be required for this. The applicant has indicated that there are no donations that will be accepted on site. He is proposing having signage at the front of the building and at the rear to discourage people from just dropping things off. So he's pretty willing to be diligent about making sure that things aren't just left there on the site. The current site conditions could use some improvement. This is the fence at the rear of the building that borders Kowicki Park that's falling down that needs replacing. There's a garbage container that's outside of the refuse enclosure. The refuse enclosure is in pretty rough shape. It needs to be repaired or replaced. Again, the fencing and the refuse enclosure from a different angle. This is a second refuse enclosure on the south side of the parcel. The doors are sort of off their hinges and need to be replaced as well. There's some deterioration of the asphalt and missing landscape materials. I've spoken with the property owner, and he's more than willing to make these repairs. These were already part of his plan for when he has just recently purchased the property, so he was aware of the issues. Is more than willing to take care of the issues and bring it back up to its approved plans. A Plan Commission recommended approval, and we have not received any letters of objection.
Is anyone here to speak for or against their informational purposes other than the applicant regarding this item? Is anyone here to speak for or against or for informational purposes concerning this item? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Zarian, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Did the applicant intend on using the entire upper and lower level?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're leasing the 10,000 square feet. I'm not sure. They haven't indicated to me that they would use the lower level for the retail, but
Just curious.
I didn't hear that part.
I was going to use the lower level for storage.
Storage?
Could you come to the microphone and just kind of say that? And say your name and your address and all that stuff.
My name is Brad Peterson, 2936 South 69th Street, Milwaukee. And yeah, the basement's just going to be used for storage of extra merchandise and stuff like that.
Okay. Consistent with the fire code, to make sure there's
Yep.
aisles and all that stuff, right? It does get inspected.
And this isn't anything being bought, it's all donations?
Do you want to
Like-
explain where this stuff comes from?
All of our stuff comes from the moving and storage industry,
Okay,
and we do estates and stuff like that.
okay, I just didn't know, it's like Newpers and any of that?
Yeah, there's no buying of any property.
Okay,
And at the planning commission, I think, as part of the notes we talked about, if this isn't a secondhand retailing, we purchase things and then resell to the public, so, which would be the Newpers requirements. You familiar with all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, but we're not going to do any buying off the street or anything like that.
Okay.
It's not in the works right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
The fence in the back is important.
Yeah, I've met with the landlords. I was there when they spoke to you, I believe, last week.
yeah.
And that's all stuff they're willing to do.
Okay,
So he's got like a $500,000 proposed rehabilitation of the property.
okay, very good.
There's a lot of deferred maintenance.
A lot of deferred maintenance.
Is he still planning on installing the loading dock, ramp, whatever?
He's talking about it, but that's probably has to come before the commission too.
I don't know, but yeah, whatever. Has to meet building codes.
Depends on, it has to meet the code, and it depends on the use, right? So,
And he did intend on cleaning up the 10, 15 feet behind the fence too, toward the park.
to his lot line.
Yes.
I think that's, so what's happening here, and I don't remember when Arbor Day is, and Greenfield Little League opening day is happening. There's going to be a large, public
3rd.
presence
Okay.
at the park.
I know that's all stuff he has in the works to get
So
that all
like the fence is important because kids that are playing down below, you don't want them,
Yeah.
right?
running up
so-
and down the hills and stuff. I get it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for Bargain Thrift Mart as presented at 4450 South 108th Street.
Motion approved.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
second,
Second by Alderperson Akers. Just while there's a second, there was a second-hand retailer on the other side of this property. So,
Were there any other ideas floated for this use, for this space?
For the space that the bargain thrift store is going in, I haven't received any calls from any other potential users.
there was only one that I've been aware of in the last 2 years, Hustler Magazine.
That was an actual
Was-
other one, but yeah.
Had contemplated using the site as a new
Store?
new store. So the building had been challenged for a number of years. There'd been a water problem in your space where a water fire, I think a fire pipe broke. Sprinkler system, yeah, causing significant flooding, so.
The owner's actually gonna replace your windows too?
Yeah.
Which will improve a lot of it.
From what I understand, he is going to put a significant investment back into the building, which hasn't had any investment in it for a couple decades, I'm guessing, right? So, which is a good thing. Okay, we made the motion. Second, could you call on that one?
Yes, I can. Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Item I2B is approve the site plan review for that same site, incorporating staff comments. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
By Alderperson Akers, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3 is a public hearing for a special use permit for Holistic Home and Hospice, an existing home healthcare services business located at 8777 West Forest Home Avenue.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The applicant is proposing the home healthcare services, holistic home and hospice, which is a special use in the C1 zoning district, which this parcel is located on Forest Home, pretty far south on Forest Home at 87th and Forest Home. So it is a special use in the C1. The applicant leases 3,700 plus square feet within the multi-tenant commercial building. The home care services they'll provide are hospice, end of care life, primarily in the comfort of the client's home. So they don't have many.
It's essentially an office, right?
It's essentially an office, right? They employ 13 people on site for the office use, and then have another 150 in the field that go to the clients' homes. Their hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. The business has been operating at this location without an occupancy permit since 2017, so this is kind of a cleanup on getting them to be compliant and getting the special use. They also have some expired building, electrical, and plumbing permits which need to be rectified. New permits need to be taken out for the work that was previously done, and those need to be finalized out.
Some challenges there. It seems as if there was a contractor or two that took out a permit, did work, but then refused to close the permit.
That's correct, yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily the applicant's, it put him in a pickle.
It did,
Okay.
yes.
So he's not one of those guys that's out there trying not to close permits or do things without permits. Just had a bad luck
Work was
with it.
done under the permits, but they were never finalized because the contractors would never call to get the permits finalized out. So
Okay.
as far as we know, the work was done to code. It just, the inspectors haven't been there to see
Yes, they
it, to
haven't.
close
Alright.
it. The holistic home and hospice would require 13 off-street parking spaces. The remaining commercial space in the building would require 9 for a total of 22. They're proposing 21 off-street parking spaces. They currently don't have any striping for the parking lot, which was part of the issue, is to get an approved site plan, which this location currently doesn't have. So we've worked with the applicant and his architect to get a site plan where they'll add 9 new parking spaces on site, some in the north by this parking circle here, and some additional parking spaces here, and get some striping. It's a challenging site. It's narrow. It's sort of an odd shape. So it was kind of tricky to get any more spaces in a safe manner on this site. But staff reviewed the site plan with the engineering department and doesn't have any concerns. They've also added some additional landscaping in by the monument sign here and along the parking area and along the base of the building. This site also had some issues that need to be resolved. There's some deterioration of the front lawn where cars are driving over it. This is a temporary fix with some concrete blocks. They did patch the asphalt with some cold patch. The asphalt had been deteriorating, so they've taken care of that. There were a number of dead ash trees, which the applicant has cut down, but at least when staff visited last, a large number were still on site that needed to be removed. So staff recommends that the parking lot improvements and landscaping are completed by the end of this year. Prior to occupancy, we'd like a letter from the applicant addressing the various other site issues, cleaned up the trees and getting those temporary concrete blocks removed, and getting the permits taken out to close the previous work. Plan Commission recommended approval, and no letters of objection have been received to date.
So just we were talking about the various site issues, you're talking about the trees?
Yeah, the trees and, I mean, the asphalt's already been taken care of. So it was the trees. They previously had some storage materials in the back of the building. Those have been removed. So primarily, it's just getting the trees cleaned up.
Can you get that done by the end of this year? I mean, I think that's really the only other issue, that's other than the parking and the landscaping,
Right.
that consistent with the plan. The tree issue, can you get that cleaned up by the end of 2020?
Please.
If you could, you're the applicant, right?
Sir Levy, with Holistic Women Hospice. So yeah, the trees were cut down, and because of the weather, it was hard for the gentleman to actually clean that. So they've actually removed the trees that were cut down, and part of the trees were from We Energy. So there's a tree line there between the two property, and it kept interfering with the transformer that's there. So We Energy came and cut some of those down. Some of them were really, really bad and deteriorating. And so the majority of them have been cut down, except there's a few still standing that we plan on cutting down in the summer and clean up that area.
Great.
What is his name?
So,
Yeah, that's a good one.
no,
I met you once before at your site, right?
Yes.
Yes. And he was working on,
yeah, I think, I
working
mean,
on the property,
Correct.
and it appears that he's
in the spirit of,
honest
yeah.
to try to improve things.
in the spirit of full disclosure, we probably spent about 20 minutes before tonight's meeting, kind of going over what we needed to do, right?
Sure.
And I think we're comfortable with your commitment to make sure that the site looks good, right? As soon as possible,
Definitely.
by the end of December 2020.
Yep.
But how do you spell your last name?
Levy. Lebbie.
She needs that too, so. But I think it's probably in the materials somewhere.
Should be.
Okay, very good. So there isn't necessarily a letter from the applicant that's required. It's just we'll make it a condition that the parking lot improvements and landscaping and the tree removal is done by December 2020. Does
Okay.
that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Or you can sign the thing and say, I will commit to doing what the planning commission did.
Well, I mean, just,
That way you don't have to write a letter.
right, that's kind of what I was trying to.
Okay, you're gonna get to that part?
I was trying to, but you just said it very nicely for me. The other thing with regard to these permits, okay, is there still some heartburn going on with the permits with one of the contractors?
Correct. The plumbing contractor, I believe, initially pulled the permit and didn't close it for some reason, and I think Corey is waiting for some document, and he's been paid. So there was an initial permit pulled, and the contractor didn't close it. So now it's a cat and mouse game trying to chase him around.
So just so we're clear though, everything that was required under the permits or all the work that needed to be done is done?
The work is done, yeah, it's
So
completed.
it's a question of a contractor closing the permit,
Correct,
and that's sort of out of your control if someone refuses to do that, right?
exactly. That's the challenge that we're having, basically.
I just don't want to blemish on your fine record because it's out of your control. There's a contractor that isn't closing the permit. for
I
some
take
re-
it you paid him.
I don't know off the top of my head, but when we had the second time, when it was closed, we had a check that was made out again, so it's all documented.
So he has,
check, so-
he is.
So otherwise, you just wouldn't pay him until he closes the permit, but yeah.
So
it
what
was
he
my
did is
fault.
He paid everything ahead of time.
Unfortunately, I thought paying them early would, speed up the process so they can get the work done, but I guess I learned from my lessons.
Yeah, so it's not a question of not paying, it's a question of paying and the guy doesn't come
Well,
back.
yeah, I was hoping he could get it closed if he'd
Right,
force him to
exactly.
close it.
So never pay the full price. I mean, it's like 30% and then 50% at a certain point when the work is like halfway done or something. Talk to a lawyer about, you need to do that. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
I don't even know where we're at with this.
Okay,
We have
did
to
we
close
adopt the
it.
resolution already?
No,
We have
we
to
haven't
close the
closed.
public hearing.
We closed the public hearing, I think.
No, we didn't.
Oh, we didn't. I'm sorry. I thought we did that.
No, we did
I'd
not.
entertain a motion to close the public
Don't
hearing.
you have to ask?
Is the one person that's in the audience registered to speak for, against, or for informational purposes?
Just wondering what's happening there. I live basically across the street.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just nosy.
Are you nosy? Okay.
They were going to expand or whatever.
They're not expanding. They're just trying to clean up the property. Bought the building 2 or 3.
Just nosy.
Okay, very good.
See?
Okay, very good. Anyone else want to speak for, against, or for informational purposes concerning this item? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the
By
public hearing.
Alderperson Akers, there's a second.
Second.
By Alderperson Bailey, on favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Did I already, we didn't do the resolution already, did we?
Nope, we got to do that next.
Yeah, okay. I have an X on it, that's why I'm asking. Entertain a motion to approve or adopt the resolution for holistic home and hospice, existing home care, healthcare service located at 8777 West Forest Home Avenue.
Motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Alderperson Cassidy, is a second.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. Just one thing for the minutes. This is essentially an office, I mean, while you provide those services aren't necessarily provided in that building, right?
Correct. We don't provide any services in the building.
So it's essentially an office use within the building, and the minutes should reflect that, I think.
Good point.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Would you please call?
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Okay. Item B, entertain a motion to approve the site plan review as presented here this evening. There were other versions, I think, floating around out there. There was one that included closing or opening another entrance on Forest Home. That was probably not going to happen with the DOT anyways. So we're approving the plan that was on the screen tonight. Is that, do you agree with that? That was the plan?
Yes, we had a little challenge with, I spoke to the architect and he mentioned that it would be very, very challenging to get the city or state to accept
It would be
another
very
open.
challenging, absolutely. They usually
Yeah.
only want one entrance or
Yeah.
one cut, so.
We did reach out to the state DOT, just asking them, and they also didn't seem that enthusiastic
It's-
about it.
It's like pulling teeth. So, I'd entertain a motion to approve it as presented here this evening. Did I do that already? I didn't do that.
No, we did not. So moved.
By
Second.
Alderperson Cassidy, second by Alderperson Akers. Just quickly under discussion, the minutes should reflect there's some discretion needs to be provided to Andrew and the folks with regard to this plan. Okay? It's a challenging site, the way the lines are laid out and parking radiuses and turning radiuses and all that other stuff, so.
Hills. Slopes.
And there's slopes and there's all sorts of issues. So just exercise discretion. The ultimate goal is for the property to look better, right? That's what the goal is. And I think you understand that, right? And you own the building, you want it to look good. It's your corporate headquarters, right?
Correct.
So, very good. A motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Under old business, I don't have any this evening. I don't think.
I don't think so, nope.
If anybody wants to sit on the tree commission with Alderperson Bailey, there's an opening. New business, K1 is approve a site use review and site and architectural plans for U.S. Cellular upgrade rooftop equipment at the Associated Bank Building at South 76th Street. I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderperson Sarian. There's a ton of antennas on top of the roof now. They're replacing them with
Okay.
others. So, motion is made second. Would you please call?
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Okay, item K2 is a claim received from Eunice Kim, K. Kim.
This claim was referred to the city attorney.
Okay, K3, claim received from Shakira Johnson.
Also referred to the city attorney.
K4, claim received from Ryan Tax Compliance Services on behalf of Aldi.
Referred to the city attorney.
K5, claim received from Orion Tax Compliance on behalf of Aldi.
Also referred to the city attorney.
Disregard to these Aldi claims, so.
Yeah, they seemed odd to me. I'm confused.
So what happened historically is fixtures and personal property were considered two different items, right? Personal property is taxable,
Yeah.
fixtures aren't, or vice versa. Well, they're taxed differently.
Pictures are generally taxed as part of the real estate.
That's the way I should have said it. So when I said they weren't taxed, so if you have something that's built in, it's considered part of the building, and it's the value of the building. So when the legislature created personal property tax exemptions, basically that you don't have to pay it anymore, what they're doing is they're trying to convert all the fixtures into personal property, because then it would be exempt from property tax, which was probably an unintended consequence.
They're the ones that filled out the form, though, if I'm not mistaken.
So what's happened in many of these cases, right, they've considered it as personal property on the tax returns that they file for years, now that the law has changed with regard to personal property tax. So that's what those are about, so. Almost everyone is doing this, every grocery store, Walmart, Meijer, so, okay.
Yeah, I think I saw probably 30 of them this year in our various communities.
And we'll see more, I'm guessing, right?
Are they gonna eliminate them altogether at the state level?
Personal property tax? Or what?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing.
There's been talk of it, but it never seems to go anywhere, so.
So one of the issues is that it's a loss of tax revenue to a community, right? So what the state has decided to do on very limited basis, with the very limited exceptions, which were machinery and stuff like that, the state has agreed to make the localities whole by giving them that property tax. When this stuff starts happening, that bill goes way up. And I'm not sure that the legislature wants to refund the walk-in coolers, right? In essence, so. Item 6, K6, applications for operator licenses. Any concerns? I don't think so. Entertain a motion to approve them, the applications.
Motion to approve the applicants as listed.
By Kestner, is there a second?
Second.
By Alderperson Akers, Alderperson Kastner, Alderperson Akers, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. I'd like to take items 7, 8, 9, and 10 together. These are all temporary Class B retailer licenses for St. John the Evangelist to sell malt beverages for various events. Entertain a motion to approve those applications.
I will make that motion, sir.
By Mr. Alderperson Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
By Alderperson Kastner, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Items 11, 12, 13, I don't know, let's take 11, 12, and 13. I'd entertain a motion to approve those items. Those are, they would have been at the finance meeting. One is the schedule of disbursements, another is a forestry intern,
Recruitment?
and a job description, and the final one is mileage reimbursements. Entertain a motion to approve those three
The
items.
forestry was, half of it was grant money.
Yes, so it's a good thing.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
By Alderperson Sarian, would you please call?
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Okay, item 14 is adopt a resolution authorizing execution of intergovernmental agreements with the City of Milwaukee for the purpose of providing police and fire support services for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. This same agreement's been vetted by, I think, almost every municipality, and want to go into it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it's basically Milwaukee, as part of the DNC, as the host community, has reached out to communities throughout the area. 166, I think, is what I've been told, to provide various support services. In Greenfield's case, those services will include some paramedic type response on the fire side. Just, you have a large crowd, you're going to need more paramedics to be able to potentially handle issues. On the police side, it sounds like it's going to be primarily just SWAT officers being available and ready to take care of issues there. The agreement itself,
There's two of them, right?
there's two agreements. They're slightly different. One is for the fire and paramedics. One is for the police. The agreements themselves have been kind of vetted by a committee, if you will, where my office, representing 7 of the communities that are involved, West Dallas, Wauwatosa, and some Oak Creek, I think, somebody else, all sat down with the city attorney in Milwaukee, addressed the issues that we had with the
Explains how many
agreements.
pages it is then.
Well, it kind of started that way. We think that it actually was just the version of the Cleveland one from 4 years ago that they just tried to reuse. And so we had to fix it to reflect Wisconsin law is primarily what it is. So it's in a position to be adopted. There are a couple typographical changes that we need to make to the actual version that we'll sign, but it doesn't change any of the terms. So
Take out Cleveland.
it's nothing quite that bad, but
So
What kind of training do our officers are probably already trained, that we won't have to put them in training that we'll have to pay for?
it's not totally sure at this point. Most of what is anticipated is going to be primarily more paperwork, that this is how we do it in Milwaukee versus how you do it in Greenfield. But it's anticipated that because all of the Milwaukee area communities do tend to work together, we all kind of operate the same, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of need for that for Greenfield. For some of the outside
Yeah,
communities.
120, that's,
Well, I mean, there were a couple from Northern Illinois, for example, that are sending up some personnel. So those types of folks will need, I think, a little bit more training, but
We're
it's
allowing that?
to bring up folks from
People from
Illinois.
Illinois?
well, they're
It's
housing
Milwaukee-
them down
it's
there, so
Milwaukee's
I
choice.
guess
What's the
it's,
financial impact on the city with this? I mean, is there costs associated that, it's gonna cost us money?
It's supposed to be reimbursed, right?
the city got money from somebody. I don't know if it was the DNC or
Right,
the
there's
federal.
a DNC grant that the city is going to get, which should reimburse most of our costs. Anything that we might have, we're going to look for ways to otherwise seek reimbursement, whether it's directly through the DNC or other sources, but there is potentially some costs that might be there depending on what happens. So, for example,
Yeah, so
if we would send somebody that isn't one of the approved folks, there might be some issues there. And so there might be costs because that wasn't pre-approved. And so we'd have to work with Milwaukee in terms of dealing with that. But the hope is that most of the costs will be reimbursed as part of the agreement, which is why we have the agreement in place.
I wanna be out of here that week, I don't wanna be around.
So should we approve this before we know if we're going to be totally reimbursed,
Yes, we
For
should
the
approve it,
costs?
Yeah,
just like everyone else is.
just like everyone else?
We could be
yeah.
the holdout, We could be a.
But the truth is, the discussions for this have been going on for 6 to 9 months, ever since it was announced.
So they should have worked out the reimbursement
It's-
costs, reimbursement.
Well, I mean,
By
I
then.
think 95% of the, what can be contemplated has been contemplated and been incorporated into the agreement. I think there are still those things. If you notice, there are like scheduled, I don't know if you looked at the agreements, but
Yeah, I
there
scanned
are
them.
exhibits and they're like, okay,
Find where it
who is it and how much is it? And I guess there's a list of these are the people that are authorized. We hire a new police officer, he doesn't make it on there, he goes and does something, they say, well, he's not on here. That's, I think, more the kind of thing that you're talking
But
about.
yeah, those would be the bigger concern is things that for whatever reason didn't get pre-authorized and then we send somebody
Hire
and so
anybody.
that would be an issue.
Can't hire anybody.
Well, we wouldn't hire anybody, well, we may hire somebody, but they wouldn't be part because by the terms of the agreement, they've got to be there at least 2 years before they'd even get on board, so.
But we have hired a lot of people within that 2-year window that could be eligible by the time, just saying.
No, they won't be.
So it's that kind of stuff.
Make a motion to approve.
Both chiefs recommended approval as well, I think, right? Motion to approve adoption of a
They're gonna use
resolution
their service if-
authorizing
will not pay us
the
otherwise.
execution of the 2 intergovernmental agreements.
Motion for approval of both.
By Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Just quickly, there may be some subtle changes to the agreement with regard to ministerial in nature, not substantive. Those agreements.
Yeah, I mean, the two changes is that there's one section where it references section 7.1.1, and that actually should be just subsection open and close parentheses 1 instead of 7.1.1. And then there's.
That's okay, we don't.
Then there's a city
quit
Milwaukee
talking lawyer
contract
to me.
number that
There
we're
could be
gonna add to.
dozens more of those that,
No, those are the only ones.
really?
So is that with confidence?
Lawyer
I
speak.
bet you there's another one. Okay, motion was made and seconded. Would you please call?
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Aye.
Okay, we're almost done. Going back to mayor's report, so I just got a text from Jeff Katz, who's at Pulaski High School. Huge crowd, all ages.
All what?
All ages.
Huge crowd, all ages. This is the turf thing that's going on tonight, which is pretty exciting. Items for future agenda, I don't have any at this point. Actually, I think though the contracts, the bids for the road construction projects have come in, and I think they're gonna be tabulated soon. Those should be coming forward. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:47.
Motion to adjourn at
Second.
7:47.
That was a good.
Second by, motion by
Bailey.
Kastner, second by Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I don't know. No, go to this thing.